For this video, we thought it might be nice to give people a bit of an overall tour of Energy Solutions. Some of our customers know us for our marine systems, either the products we distribute or the control panels and distribution panels we build. Others know us for our specialist vehicle or our off-grid systems. So we've got an opportunity here to give you a bit of a walk around and show you everything that we do. I'm just standing outside the building that we've been in since 2016, I believe. We have outgrown that. We're now split across 3 buildings, and the building behind me is now pretty much dedicated to production and for our engineering team. So we'll start there and we'll have a bit of a walk through here first. So please come on in. Okay, so we're going to start in what used to be our front offices, but is now our production facility for slightly heavier panels. Anything that really is a bit of a challenge to get upstairs into our main panel building facility. So we'll start with our isolation transformer production line and then work around this particular area. This area here is set up as our isolation transformer production area. We've got the gantry above, so we can actually move them on and off the bench nice and easily. We build around about 1 of these a day on average, and these are designed to allow vessels to connect to shore power of differing voltages, and they switch the tappings automatically to suit. So we build both our ISOBoost 12 kVA, 15 kVA and 24 kVA machines on this station. This area is set up for producing our power distribution units for electric ribs, for an electric rib manufacturer. We're kind of at the pre-production stage with this at the moment, so we're just experimenting around with how we lay this area out, and we're hoping to get this into sort of serious production early part of 2023. This area is also dedicated to the electric rib production side of things. Currently, Trevor's doing a little bit of prototyping. We're struggling to get hold of ECUs at the moment due to the worldwide chip shortage, so we've cunningly got a bit of plywood model to represent it. But this area is principally going to be used for making up loom sets, etc., that are associated with those power distribution units. I'm in the corner with Mark, who's one of our most experienced panel wiremen, standing behind the tool bench that I regularly raid because his is one of the most nicely laid out, and I can always find what I'm looking for, so thank you, Mark. At the moment, Mark's building one of our ISOBoost products. In the background here, we've got a distribution panel and PLC panel for a 37-metre motor yacht that's being built out in Turkey. I think we're just waiting on some PLC slices for that, and then that will be able to be finished and go into its enclosure. And then we've got an easy grid here which is just about to start. These smaller easy grids are viable to bring into this part of the building, so this is where we would choose to build those. So we'll have a walk through now into our main production area where we build the larger units. These are our 45 kVA hybrid units. We build those in a kind of a regular kind of pattern, again around about 1 a day. And I just really want to kind of walk through perhaps that in a little bit more detail, so we'll look at each kind of stage of the manufacturing process. So this is the first stage of the easy grid builds. We get the enclosure in, and along with this we get kitted all of the larger components and sub-assemblies. So that will be a mixture of everything from bits of din rail, cooling fans. If we come around to the front here, not in yet, but we'll have some of the sub-assembly plates that I will talk about later, and that are built off of line. They get mounted in. I think the door-mounted components physically get put in place but not wired up. Around this side then we'll also mount in the quattros. We've got a method of doing that with a hoist using a bracket. Have you got the bracket there I could show? Thank you, Chris. So this is basically is a bracket that kind of clips around the lid of the unit to allow us to lift it up with a hoist. So the batteries would go in but not be wired up. So really the whole idea here is that all of the physical components, as far as practical, are mounted in at this stage, and then they kind of go through then to be hooked up at stage 2, which we'll come to shortly. And ordinarily with a following wind, all of that happens in here in what, 6-7 hours, something like that.
7 hours, yeah.
Yeah. So that's our kind of first stage of the process. So this is our second stage of production, where we start to do all of the interconnecting of the sub-assemblies and wire the whole thing up. Lucky old us with Brexit. We've obviously got the challenges of logistics at the moment with Europe, and we actually are waiting on some BMSs and lithium batteries, which is why this unit is not 100% complete. But all of the mechanical stuff that was put in at stage 1 has now been wired up. The looms have been dropped through. There should be batteries in here. All of the battery interlinks are done. And those batteries would normally be linked up to the BMS at this stage. So we've got a slight log jam at the moment because we're waiting on batteries, but we're reliably informed they're on their way, and we'll suddenly get this glut through. If we walk around to the front, again, the door's been populated, and the 2 plates that are fitted in the mechanical assembly stage have all been interlinked. All of the cables run off, including down to our socket plates. And all of the inlets and outlets down there. So that side of it's done. And then if we walk around to this side, then the cables have been run into the Quattros, and really all that we've got left on that side of things is to wire those into the BMS unit when that arrives. So this is pretty much ready to rock and roll, safe for batteries. So we're now in the inspection area. Normally there would be an easy grid in here amongst other things, but as I say, we're waiting on batteries at the moment. So that means that Lulu, who is crouched behind this control panel, again, I think for a Turkish customer, would normally have one of those in here along with other jobs for our marine and specialist vehicle sectors. So we do a pre-inspection here. With the easy grids, it means that we can check all of the safety critical items, get the units on a pre-charge so that when they go into the test area, we've got a fully charged set of batteries, and we can give them all of the performance testing that we do as part of the final test phase. So this is our final stage for our EasyGrid products, but also for everything else that we build, which is our test area. At the moment it's cordoned off. I can see that we've got live power in here because the red warning light is on, so I'll stay outside the cordon as I meant to. In here today we've got Denmark and R2. Denmark's working on a 37-metre main AC power distribution unit, so that will basically select power from generators, shore power, whatever's appropriate, and distribute that off to sub-distribution boards around the vessel. We've got a marked out area on the floor where an EasyGrid would be in for test. As I say, normally we would have one in here every day, but we're going to have a bit of a glut and a bit of a catch up when the batteries turn up. And we've got a panel here, again another one for Turkey, just gone through inspection and waiting on test. So they're going to be busy bunnies down here for a few days, I think. So with the EasyGrid builds, in order to be able to get them through on a pace of 1 a day, we've had to break some of the work out off of the line in order to kind of preserve that pace. And what we've got here is an area where we pre-build the control panels. We've got a left and a right control plate. We pre-build those. Currently they are being wired pretty much from start, but when we look upstairs we'll look at our kind of looming facility which we're just implementing, and that's going to mean that we're going to be able to drive some time out down here by actually supplying pre-built looms down to this area. We've got a visual management system for identifying what we need to build next. So this gives a bit of a kind of a flow of the works order that we are looking to complete and the sub-assemblies that need to be ready in order to have that, to have all of the components ready for the final assembly. And that really has fallen out of our lean program, where we are really looking to try and understand how our systems work and how we can improve our productivity and improve our quality. And behind this unit, hidden away in the corner, if you're able to follow me, David, we've kind of got our daily team board, which we kind of fill out in terms of all of the kind of metrics we're trying to measure. So safety, quality, productivity, coming up with all of the things that are basically roadblocking us and looking to address those so we can improve that process. So all of this is quite new for us. We're learning it, and we're really quite enjoying the whole process of learning how to get lean. Right, so upstairs to the rest of our production facility. So upstairs is split into half production and the other half is for our engineering offices and production offices. This is our upstairs kind of production area, kind of split into cable, looming and engraving, sign making, whatever down this side. And then we've got Rishi there is in our test area, and our smaller electrical panel builds, which is predominantly marine down here on the right hand side. So if we wander down, Dean's, as always, has got lots on his bench. I think we've got another PLC panel. I guess we're waiting on slices, looking at a bit of empty space there. We've got another panel being built for a smaller motorboat project out in Turkey. Jeff is on a distribution panel, I think a wheelhouse distribution panel for a motorboat out in Turkey as well. So he's just on that at the moment. So we're putting rear fixed circuit breakers into that aluminium plate, and then there'll be an engraved laminate with all of the idents and whatever for that laid over the top of it. Joseph is also on some sort of smaller sub panels for our customer out in Turkey. It looks like, again, a couple of small shortages, but pretty much that's all looking like that's going together. These are panels for the RNLI for their Shannon class lifeboats. And these ones are absolutely bed blockers at the moment. We are literally waiting on one circuit breaker that we've been waiting for, I think 8 months for, where the manufacturer just can't get hold of the plastic to mold the circuit breaker casing from. So a real challenge for us. Fortunately, the client is fine that they're behind as well, but we would really like to get these gone. And then finally here, we've got Mick, who's got a Turkish project on the go, and he's also just starting a distribution board for a UK builder of military stroke governmental vessels, and this is, I think, a distribution board for a patrol boat build, so a kind of regular build for us. Right, so we'll have a bit of a wander into the looming area. I'm going to probably go back up to the start, so just to give you a bit of a challenge, David. So we've got these kind of bins here where we drop in pre-built cable assemblies. These are on trolleys. Again, we're kind of working our own sort of Kanban system for this. But because Kanban has a particular designation on our MRP system, we're having to rename Kanban for our particular purposes. And because Dan runs this area, anything that's in the cable area is actually a Danban system. So this is all Danban products. And you can see here, we've kind of got pre-builds of heater with wiring. HO7 cables are AC cabling to take power off of the output of the multis to the distribution arrangement. Earth cables, battery balancers, a whole range of items which we're pre-building down here to ease the pressures down in the production area. Further along here, we've got the ability, we've got the kit to batch cut DIN rail, trunking, various other items. Again, very much done on the Danban method, where we're just keeping a bin of those available and using visual clues, visual indicators, markers to decide when we need to replenish that for production. If we squeeze through this side, this gives a bit of an indication or a bit of a feel for what we're doing on the cable side of things. So the larger cables are measured, cut. We've got a variety of cutting methods on the go. We've got we are building a bastard child version of one of these, where we're making it into a bench mounted version for ease of cutting. We've got a only available in America cable cutter for cutting really large cables. So that's part of our kind of arsenal for the cable prep side of things. This machine here is a machine for stripping the insulation off the end of the cables so that we can do them to a regular length and without damaging any of the cores of the cable. So that machine gives us that ability there. We've got a pneumatic crimp tool here for making reliable, correctly crimped connections on the larger cables. So these machines here will both deal with up to 120 square mil cable, which is pretty much what we kind of deal with on that side of things. George here is putting heat shrink sleeve markings. Can I nick that from you for a second? So with our larger cables, we ident the cables with a heat shrink which has been printed on. So George is shrinking those onto the cables, just using a hot air gun, but the hot air gun, we've now got a foot trigger for the power for it, so that he has got both hands for manipulating the cable and getting that done nice and quickly. So that's part of his array of tools for doing that particular task. With our battery takeoff cables, we are using these insulated cables. So I think we've done a little video on those because they're available to purchase from us as well. But this allows us to have to keep the batteries well protected against accidental contact. So that forms part of that production area there. If I wander along a bit, then Brandon, sorry, is fixing something. I don't know whether it was broken or not, but Brandon's basically receiving cables off our automated cut, strip and print machine, and as they come off, we can then get those ferruled, and they're already marked up, and we can then drop them onto the looming board in order to create a loom to hand down to our production area downstairs. So at the moment, Brandon's doing that direct from machine into the looming board, but we're kind of looking at ways that we can kind of have an intermediate step on that. And part of that process here is Tom's working on documenting the kind of the looming board arrangement. So this is a much larger looming board where we're using these Panduit, I think is the manufacturer. Is it that right, Dan? So we're using these Panduit clips, which are really neat actually. But basically take a bit of cable, snaps in and retains it, and you can just keep populating the cables in there and snap it out when you're done. So we've got more of those coming. And what we want to do with this board is to populate it with these little cable retainers. Will allow us to accurately hold the end of the cables, drop the cables through the looming board. And what Tom's doing is working out a kind of a sequence for doing that. And we're going to mark the cables, not only with the idents that are required for the panel wireman, so they know the terminal block it needs to go into, but we're going to add an extra character on there, which will be a grouping character, so that we know the destination on the loom area, where we don't need that granularity of information of the actual circuit ident. We just need to know that that cable is going to this area. That area will have a designation, and then that will simplify the task for the looming crew. So Tom's in Excel spreadsheet hell documenting all of that. That's why his eyes have gone all goggly, so we can get that bit done. Then the final kind of area at this end is Scott's area. So Scott takes care of basically anything that needs to be cut or printed, really. So we've got a variety of things that we do. Downstairs we've got a laser plastic cutting and engraving machine. That's pretty much all we got down in use down there, isn't it, Scott, now? We don't really use the engraver, the mechanical engraver any longer. It's all just the laser. Yeah, so we're pretty much using the laser exclusively. Up here on this bench, we've got machines to print onto heat shrink. We've got machines to print onto cable markers. If we're not printing directly onto the cable, as we've just seen there, we've got the ability to print onto self-adhesive labels, all of those kind of things. So for the stuff which we're building on a regular basis, then again, we've kind of got a not Kanban system. So I guess this is Scott Ban in this area. So Scott's basically got these kind of visual markers here. When the product gets removed and he gets to the card, then that tells him he has to remake a batch of these particular products. I'm going to lose the label. So all of these are for kind of regular builds, and that just means that he can produce these at his leisure provided that we've got our buffer stock up here. If we go over and have a look at what he's actually working on now, which I don't really know what it is. Okay, so this is the rear face of an engraved laminate, and this material basically it's got protective covering on the front. I'll peel it off in a second. But with this, it's a two-part material. The black reverse part of it can be engraved away with a laser, so that it becomes translucent, maybe not quite transparent. So if I kind of peel off the corner here and peel that back, we can then see the text visible through the clear front part of the material. And then we can paint the reverse of that so that you can make the text any colour you like. Obviously, most people are pretty boring and just have it white, but it could be any colour you like or a mixture of colours. So we engrave that part, and then we bond a 3M self-adhesive material onto the back of that, and then that affixes to the front of the enclosure, and that gives us our finished label. We use that kind of material for everything from just ordinary legend plates, so that you know what you're doing, through to serial number plates and the like. So a very kind of flexible way of manufacturing something that can be one-off or multiple quantities. Okay, so into the engineering office, which is kind of designated partly kind of more software-y over this side, more electrical design, mechanical design over that side. So I'm going to pick on Josh first. So Josh kind of looks after our programming of, well, principally looking after our programming of servo-type devices. So Victron have got a really powerful little system controller, stroke hub, graphical display, but we've got things we want to do that are kind of outside of the abilities of the product. So Josh basically dives straight into the code, and we do custom versions of that. And we can kind of see here a kind of how graphically is really different from the Victron system. But equally, are you able to swipe across and show us another page, Josh? So we've kind of got a page here that kind of shows fuel savings using the hybrid product. So that's all calculated by the custom firmware that Josh has done. And then we've also got the ability here to program the outlets that we saw on the front of the hybrid unit as well. So what the servo will do is to accept programming all of that, and then to send an instruction to a PLC that's built within the panel, and that PLC in turn controls the actual relays or contactors that power up or power down those sockets. So that's kind of how we manage all of that. On the right hand side, that's kind of like our web remote view of all of this. Rather than using the Victron portal, we're using a kind of dedicated portal that really provides all of the information, hopefully as much as possible on one page, and it's far more focused on the sort of customization side of it rather than the standard Victron pages. So that keeps Josh busy in the mornings and possibly the afternoons as well. Tony here is working on a PLC program. I don't know which particular brand of PLC this is. Is it?
Siemens logo.
Siemens logo. Okay.
Slider.
Okay. So Tony has to kind of swap programming hats the whole time. We use quite a lot of Vargo. We've been using quite a bit of Schneider. So Vargo is Codesys. And then I guess that's called more ladder logic, is it?
Yes, it's Siemens' own proprietary
system. And then Tony will also work on things like generator controllers. So we use a lot of deep sea. We've used a bit of DIFE recently. So all of those kind of things. So he spends his time basically having to learn someone else's software and then do the programming. And he's also a bit of a master of our own product, which is ePlex. So he puts together the ePlex software for clients as well. So again, fairly busy. If I swivel around here and we'll have a kind of look at the rest of the kind of electrical engineering side of things, then we've got Devon. Is Devon working from home, or has he been turned invisible? I just see his mouse moving. He's working from home, okay. So Devon's working from home. He kind of looks after the electrical design work for our EasyGrid project, so he's pretty much dedicated to that. Obviously, does get involved in other things as well. Dave sort of manages the electrical design side of things, and he looks after most of our marine projects. So he is thinking about Turkey the whole time, but in a boat building related manner rather than going on holiday there. So I don't know what you've got on the go at the moment, Dave. You've got some. Okay, so he's a UK boat builder. Right. Okay, so so we've got a bit of a general arrangement distribution board, presumably. That looks like an under the stairs type unit.
Yeah, that's just all hidden away in a cupboard. Yeah, just breakers to do all the AC and DC distribution.
Fab. So yeah, so fairly sort of conventional type of arrangement there. So Dave's on the case with that. Josh here is our kind of senior mechanical guy, and is pretty much always got an EasyGrid enclosure on the hand because someone's coming along to him and asking for a could you just on it. So, but this kind of gives you a bit of a feel for the for the work and effort that's gone into getting this enclosure to the stage it is at the moment and productionising that. All of this will be modelled in 3D CAD, and then the next kind of stage from that is to break that all apart into its component parts, flat pack them, document that, and supply that as a complete pack for a subcontractor. And then Scott's new to us, Scott's assisting Josh on the mechanical design side of it. And I think when we were looking at the cable looming side of things, we were looking at a little holder to support the end of the cables on the looming board. So Scott's been working with the guys to kind of come up with a way of being able to make that ourselves using our own laser cutter, so that we can respond quickly to changes in the loom boards and make exactly the right kind of device to suit that particular loom. And then if we kind of circle around, we've got Jaren here. She's missing at the moment, unfortunately. She's away off ill, but she's a project engineer again on the electrical design side of things. Then we have Dan, who's our engineering manager, who is a kind of remote worker here, kind of 2 days a fortnight, I guess. He kind of looks after the whole team. And then Sam, who's lurking around somewhere. Sam is working on our high power off-grid projects. So we're moving up from what we saw down in the workshop, which is a 45 kVA, sort of 45 to 80 kilowatt hour hybrid product, to something that's about 150 kVA with up to 200 kilowatt hours of energy storage. So suitable for construction cranes, field hospitals for the army, all of that type of higher power applications with really intermittent loads that benefit really significantly from a hybrid solution. And then finally, if we go into the production office, so in here we've got Sam hiding, so that's where Sam was. And then John's not at his desk at the moment, but John's our production manager. Sarah looks after the purchasing principally for production. Michelle kind of heads up all of the admin for it, and Steph kind of provides a bit of support for all of that kind of stuff, and keeps everyone honest out on the production floor with making sure that they've correctly documented and returned and all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of our kind of support facility there for production. And I think that pretty much covers everything in this building. So we'll have a bit of a wander across. As they say in the UK, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. So it was beautifully sunny out there and it's now raining, so that we'll go and get wet. So let's walk across to our second building, which is where we have our goods inwards, dispatch, we store everything, basically all of our logistics function. So this is our goods in, goods out area, and it's fairly congested at the moment, which is partly because we've had our kind of daily or every other day delivery from Victron. So we had, I think, 30 15 kVA Quattros delivered today, along with a couple of pallets of regular kind of stock. So, you know, all of that's got to transit through here. We've also got a whole load of stuff going to a client out in Turkey, but until we get the whole package together, the whole shipment together, that can't go. So we're kind of building up that inventory as we get things completed. So causing a bit of congestion, but in a good way. And then some of our heavier items we store out here as well. So we've got some of our Pro Alliance batteries from American Battery Corporation up there, some of the Victron lead acid batteries, some Rolls batteries, yeah, a lot of battery stock out here. And then we'll have a bit of a wander through goods inwards and then have a look at where we kind of store our Victron products. Right, so this is our goods in area. So I guess a little bit of sublime to the ridiculous. So far Paul has booked in probably £100,000 worth of Victron stuff on one shipment this morning. But we also have lots of small little shipments. So I don't know what we've got here. Oh, a couple of indicator lamps to go into some kind of Schneider. Oh yes, Schneider lamp, isn't it, to go inside as well? They're door mounted lamps. So yeah, everything from this to a large palletized delivery from Victron comes through Paul here. Book it in, gather the serial numbers on serial numbered items, and then it goes away onto the shelf or straight out to a client if that's what's due. So in our downstairs stores location, we try and stock all of the heavier items and the faster moving stuff. So here we've got our larger Victron items. It's very difficult to bay this up because the kind of inventory levels change the whole time. So that stuff is kind of floor mounted. But if we come around here to our kind of smaller, faster moving lines, then this comes to give a bit of an indication of kind of what we kind of carry. So everything here from, I don't know, mini BMSs, small chargers, more chargers. Oh, loads of chargers here. All of the kind of blue power chargers are stored around this side. Then we've got servo touches, servos. These are the actual kind of servos themselves, so we keep quite a few of those in stock. Yeah, so pretty much the whole of the Victron product line we've got, and we try and keep a reasonable quantity of it so that we can supply next day to our UK customers. Finally, we're going to go into our offices where we've got sales, marketing, finance, and the purchasing associated with our box goods. So come on inside and we'll have a quick look around there. Okay, so we moved into here earlier this year, 2022. We have yet to put signage up, which is a bit of an oversight, but we're just on that now. So let's kind of go through. So Adrian in here has been working on some graphics for servo screens actually. So for a new product we're doing, which is going to allow switching and dimming of circuits from a servo screen, and we're just having a play around with the tank monitoring graphics that they've got on their system. So that's something there. And then reality through the rest of the building here, we've got a bit of a display area yet to be reconfigured. This is our sales desk here. The first rule of doing a video, of course, is not to let anyone know that you're going to do it. Otherwise, people take holiday, walk out the office and everything else. So it's a little bit bare bones in here at the moment. But Mark Kemsley is kind of heads up our sales desk here. Then we've got Sam and Emma who are on order entry, do our kind of internet sales and also deal with telephone inquiries as well. Taylor's our service engineer. So he's rarely here, so it's a little bit of a treat to see him in here. And then Susie looks after the purchasing to support our box goods sales. So she's kind of earwigging in on the conversations that are happening here, making sure that we've kind of got our appropriate stock levels and orders in place for that. Then on the middle island here, there's myself and Mark Penny, who is one of the other people who reliably stick up their hand to make videos, and also Christine, who's doing some kind of finance project work for us on that side of things. And then over here we've got a little bit of sort of data management, logistics support, purchasing support with Debbie and Marina. Offices are here on the right. That's our little cubby hole for making our normal videos. So David knows that place well. That's where we normally kind of hang out with these days. And then into our kind of finance office here, where we've got shrinking violets hidden behind their computer monitors. So Nat and Kelly. Kelly's our finance manager. Nat kind of looks after pretty much our sales and purchase ledgers, payroll, whole load of raft of things. So a busy office in there. And then finally, we've got a kind of bit of a meeting room stroke project room in here, which we use for client visits, and is also at the moment our hub of lean documentation. So we are, I guess, the world's preeminent purchaser of sticky up big notepads. So that's our where we're mapping out our processes and flows for various things, from production through purchasing through returns process. I can't think what all the things we're looking at the moment. We're just about to start our engineering processes as well. So, we're trying to map those out, understand how they work, how we can make them leaner. So I think that's probably pretty much everything that we do. As you can see, it's been a very busy kind of year and a half. We've increased our turnover by 2 and a bit times over the last 12 months, forcing us to kind of take on a bit more space. And we're kind of running to kind of catch up in terms of getting all of that up to speed and back presentable to visitors and clients again. But hopefully it gives you a bit of a feel for the breadth of what we do here, and I hope it was an informative little video for you.